Verse 5. Take loss and defeat upon myself. Whenever someone, out of envy, does me wrong by attacking or slandering me, I shall take loss and defeat upon myself and give gain and victory to others. Sometimes we wish to renounce worldly attachments, but due to our lack of faith in the Guru and the three jewels, we hesitate to put their teachings into action. We often think, can I really attain enlightenment and liberation by doing so? This doubt is mainly because our faith is not strong enough. Sometimes this is our mindset. When faced with real-life situations, we forget the teachings. Even when listening to the Dharma, we dare not let our minds follow the instructions. We tend to protect ourselves instinctively. As a result, it is hard to put what we have learned into action. In reality, spiritual practice is not so difficult. It is simply, "Thus I have heard, I follow accordingly." If you sincerely abide by this statement, Dharma practice becomes easy. "Thus I have heard" means that we must listen to the Buddha's words carefully without misinterpreting them. "Follow accordingly" means to practice according to the teachings. By doing so, it is easy to achieve spiritual accomplishments. Verse 6. View those who harm me as spiritual teachers. Even when someone I have helped and placed great hopes in mistreats me unjustly, I shall view them as a spiritual teacher. The 8 verses for training the mind is beneficial for both Sutrayana and Tantrayana practices. Even though we may appear to be excellent practitioners who have been in retreat in the mountains for ages, if we cannot apply our spiritual practice to daily life, we may struggle to interact with others when we leave our seclusion. When facing difficulties, we may not be able to overcome them. If this is the case, on the one hand, it could undermine others' faith in the Dharma. On the other hand, we might be frustrated by repeated setbacks and lose our enthusiasm for the spiritual path. I cannot say that there are no bodhisattvas among us, but for the most part we appear as ordinary beings. Living in this Saha world, we are quite pitiful. In the Buddhist Academy, most of us believe in the 3 jewels and karma. So we are much more fortunate than worldly people. However, when you return to the bustling cities, the people around you might be ignorant of karma and don't believe in the 3 jewels. In such challenging circumstances, you must bear these pith instructions in mind. Whenever afflictive emotions arise, immediately subdue them with these instructions, like a warrior on the battlefield who would swiftly draw out his weapon to eliminate enemies upon encountering them. The Kadampa masters in the past put extraordinarily high value on the last 2 lines of the 5th verse. I shall take loss and defeat upon myself and give gain and victory to others. If we write them down on a piece of paper and place it in a noticeable place in our home, it will serve as a helpful reminder for our practice. When studying at the Teachers' College, I enjoyed putting up mottos and proverbs that resonated with me on the walls of my dormitory. Before going out or having a meal, I would read them, which helped cultivate virtues. For example, do not rejoice in praise. Do not feel sad by insult. Those who live virtues out are the noble ones. By frequently reading these teachings, I realized that my virtues were lacking. However, if we only have a superficial understanding of the teachings and practice in a shallow way, merely reciting mantras, meditating on bindus, or obtaining a Buddhist certificate without comprehending the teachings, it won't bring genuine benefits to our minds. From the biographies of the Kadampa masters, we can see how virtuous their minds were and how pure their actions were. What about ourselves? I hope we can read more of their biographies to nurture our faith and diligence in Dharma practice so that we can dedicate ourselves to the path of mind training. Good practitioners benefit the entire society. Therefore, if Dharma teachings penetrate deeply into everyone's heart, the country's moral standards will naturally rise. Here is the elaboration on verse 6. We may have helped someone with effort or money, or supported their Dharma study and practice, having high expectations for them. However, instead of showing gratitude, they harm us in various unjust ways. Mipham Rinpoche's The Great Biography of Shakyamuni Buddha recorded that in a past life, the Buddha risked his own life to save someone. Yet, instead of repaying his kindness, that person harmed him. Such cases are common in today's society. So, how should we respond to such individuals? We should view them as spiritual teachers, no different from our Vajra Guru. This is genuine Dharma practice. Faith is essential for practicing this instruction. Such teachings may seem almost impossible to apply at first glance. So, what should we do? We need to have faith. Through faith, we can quickly put these teachings into practice. The stronger our faith, the more these teachings can influence us. Thus, we can keep them in mind and constantly remind ourselves of how to act. To view those who harm us as no different from our Guru is very hard. Several years ago, I brought a statue of Manjushri back from India. Unfortunately, it was stolen by someone who knew me very well. Since childhood, I have always had a deep faith in Manjushri. Moreover, it took a lot of trouble to get the statue through customs in Hong Kong. I had intended to enshrine this sacred statue as my field of refuge to which I could make offerings. It had supreme blessing powers. Even if someone had offered me millions of RMB, I would not have sold it. I am so attached to the Manjushri statue. Later, when the stewards heard about this incident, they asked if I would like to investigate the theft or involve the police. I knew who had stolen it. So, if I had sought help from the police, it wouldn't have been difficult to get the statue back. However, at that time I thought, if we investigate, everyone will know who stole the statue. Buddha statues are meant to benefit beings, but if this afflicts the thief, I'd rather give the statue to him as a gift. Furthermore, this is a great opportunity for me to practice patience. So, I declined the kind offer of the stewards, and the whole thing was thus settled. If someone harms you without reason, instead of getting annoyed, you should generate great compassion towards them, dedicate all your merits to them, and view them as a spiritual teacher. This is the way of a genuine practitioner. On the other hand, if someone takes something from you and you respond with anger or even rage, this is not the way of a real practitioner, but strays even further from the Bodhisattva path. We often face adverse circumstances, and we should seize every opportunity to cultivate patience. As the 37 practices of a Bodhisattva states, even if someone I have cared for, like my own child, regards me as an enemy, I shall love him even more, like a mother loves a sick child. This is the practice of a Bodhisattva. As practitioners, these are the essential attitudes we should have. It is not easy to put verse 6 into action, but many methods can assist us. We may have helped someone and placed great hopes in them, just as many parents do for their children. They invest immense effort in raising their children and have high expectations for them. Although it may not involve harm, few people are grateful to their parents or repay their kindness. Some people are even more ungrateful to their friends. So, how should we meditate? First, we can meditate that we may have harmed them in past lives. We have formed both positive and negative karmic connections with some individuals. When the positive karma ripens, we get along well with them. However, when the negative karma ripens, we hurt each other. This is quite normal. Many couples love each other in the beginning, but resent each other later. This is very common in today's society. They may even harm each other, resorting to physical violence and verbal abuse. This happens because, in past lives, they formed positive karmic ties that later turned negative. In this lifetime, they repeat the cycle of positive and negative karmic ties. They fall in love but break up over time. This pattern is related to the negative karmic connections from their past lives. Without negative karmic links from their past lives, they wouldn't suddenly resent each other in this life. While there are ever-changing factors in this life, the karma from their past lives plays a role. This explanation is from the perspective of karma. From the inside of non-self, this can help us overcome self-grasping. When others harm us for no reason, we can use this opportunity to deal with self-grasping, cultivate the perfection of patience, and eliminate anger. We tend to generate anger towards harm. Without harm, usually we won't become angry. Yet, if you haven't hurt someone, but they hate you, it is a result of past karma. This verse is not difficult to understand. What we need to do is to spend more time meditating on it. I encourage you to reflect on the 8 verses for training the mind, verse by verse, during sitting meditation. Visualize how you have been kind to someone and placed great hopes in them, but later they harmed you. Then, view them as a spiritual teacher and cultivate gratitude towards them. First, train your mind with this verse during meditation. Gradually, when you encounter such circumstances in real life, you will find that, at least, you no longer instinctively react with negative thoughts. If you can refrain from anger and treat such individuals as spiritual teachers in real-life situations, your Dharma practice will be close to success. Spiritual practice is not so difficult. especially for monastics who have renounced worldly life to follow the Dharma path. As long as you sincerely put it into action, you can succeed. If you wish to do it, you can accomplish it. It is not something unattainable. Just do it. If you feel confused, start by understanding the theory behind why we should meditate and act in this way. Once you comprehend the reason behind it, you can mentally exercise these verses every day. With consistent training, you will gradually be able to integrate it into your actions. Don't slack off. Without diligent effort, it is hard to live these teachings out. We put a lot of effort into our practice, but we may not understand the point. Some people recite the Buddha's name 10,000 times a day, and some prostrate 1,000 times daily. They work hard, but haven't made significant progress. Some people study the precepts for years, but see no spiritual growth. I would recommend you practice the 8 verses for training the mind. If you dedicate a year to this practice, I assure you that you will see progress. During sitting meditation, contemplate and exercise each of the 8 verses earnestly. In fact, when learning the Dharma, we don't need to study a lot. Even a single verse can contain abundant teachings. If you truly integrate them into action, wouldn't you attain enlightenment? If you apply each verse, even if you can only embody 60% of its standard, you will achieve spiritual accomplishments. On the other hand, simply reciting precepts, no matter how proficiently, may not lead to enlightenment if you haven't put them into practice. Many people have this problem. Tibetan Buddhism emphasizes actual practice. Some practitioners devote their entire lives to practicing these 8 verses and ultimately achieve enlightenment.